understand that's why we have so many examples of various white comedy. Like, I'm sure some Arabic kids that grew up on South Park and The Office who would love to make a slice of life comedy about trying to be the first Arab NFL MVP or coach, but no one's going to greenlight that comedy. It's too different. And that's the real beauty of white privilege. You're allowed to be anything.
Let's talk white women. You're amazing. Amazing your accomplishments over the last few years. I gotta tell you, the way white women somehow hijack the woke movement, generals around the world should be analyzing this.
What's so bad about corn syrup? It's natural. Corn's a fruit. Syrup comes from a bush.
Oh boy.
I was a kid, men were men. Now everyone's wrapped up in feelings.
Real men stuff feelings down.
Objection! Overruled. This is fun.
You could do it, sir.
Not gonna happen.
Okay, you.
No.
Well, one of us is gonna have to do it.
It's funny. It's like, it's not even, like, we're not gay. We're just like...
I don't know. I think...
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Here's a question.
Okay.
If there was a place...
Does this conversation seem gay or not?
Are nice and in great shape. Yeah. You're always at the gym. You only hang out with dudes.
Yes.
All right.
I'll tell you why you're gay.
55 burgers, 55 fries, 55 tacos, 55 pies, 55 cokes, 100 tables.
We're going to slip into a Baddha-Konasana. Angie, do you mind leading me here in a...
What's the deal with white humor? So, I briefly considered making a video deconstructing conservative humor then I realized that all the big left-leaning channels beat me to it. You know the usual guys. Some More News, Big Joe, Jose Bird, and a bunch more. But here's the thing. Because they're all white, I don't know. Jose Bird, I don't know what he is. He's just a bird, never seen him. They all kind of missed the point. Sure, it's fun to dunk on the bull movie Lady Ballers where every joke is trans people bad and built upon a straw man argument that doesn't exist, or the fact conservative humor is more focused on owning the liberals and being offensive than telling actual jokes, i.e. Lady Ballers again. As someone who doesn't spend all day on TikTok and Twitter looking for things to get angry about then making YouTube videos about it, I have to tell you something. A lot of liberal humor sucks. A lot of feminist humor sucks. It could be argued that the 2015 Trump election run ruined Saturday Night Live and late night talk shows and most of comedy because so much of comedy became Orange Man bad instead of telling actual jokes. Just as it seems like we're getting out of that, a new style of humor began arising, which led me to the question, what's the deal with white humor? And if we could design the perfect comedian to become super successful fast as possible, what would he look like? And I'm not going to beat around the bush and pretend, ladies. You know it will have to be a man, a straight white man in this experiment. But first, what exactly is white humor? Just so y'all know, this video will be mostly based on American entertainment. Two reasons. Canada fucking sucks. They brought Johnny Test to the world. It's like some animation from Newgrounds in 2004. And don't get me started on whatever the hell Letterkenny is. And British humor sucks. Oh, we created The Office, governor. Okay, bitch, and America made it watchable. God, the British version of The Office sucks. British humor sucks. That's why their version only had like 14 episodes over across the pond, while the American version created multiple successful careers. Okay, back to white humor. It's not just a show with all or mostly white people. Like I said, The Office is one of the best sitcoms of the 2000s, but because white folks make up a majority of America and even a larger majority of the people who control media, along with what does and doesn't make it to the screen, from the money to test audiences to the advertisers, it's all mostly white. And if we being honest, heterosexual white men. And white men are the target audience, no matter what the hoteps and anti-wokes tell you on YouTube. And the game is the game. But all that aside, just being a comedy and having white folks doesn't make something white humor. The Simpsons, Always Sunny, and Curb Your Enthusiasm all have a mostly white cast in front and behind the cameras. Yet, you can't go a single day on Black Twitter without seeing a meme or gif or reference from one of those universally loved shows. Whereas, The Big Bang Theory was on TV for 12 seasons and seems to have no audience or lasting impact anywhere online. But also, I think that show was really only popular with old folks.
Babs, you want to sit and watch?
No.
I'll have you know that I can bench press over 690 billion nanograms.
Sheldon, that's less than 2 pounds.
Sounded better the way I said it.
When I tell that joke at work tomorrow, people are going to be sorry they didn't come.
So to truthfully get to the bottom of what is white humor, I divided this video into several subcategories. We'll dissect them one by one and search for the answer of what is white humor. First up, we have Homo, erotic, bro comedy. Now, if I wanted, this could be its own video, but if I'm outside in the real world and I say to another black person, man, white boys be on some weird shit with their jokes, they know exactly what I mean. It used to be a show on MTV called Pranked. I can't even show clips of it because YouTube literally changed its guidelines, and my last video got hit like with not age restriction, but advertising restriction. But MTV Pranked was a show I didn't watch by choice. I catch the last couple minutes while waiting for Rob Dyrdek's Fantasy Factory and Pimp My Ride or something to come on. But the show was what it sounded like. White boys pranking each other. Now, if you didn't grow up around white people like me, your idea of pranking a friend might be, I don't know, sneaking into the bathroom while they shower, pour a bucket of ice water on them. Well, this was the early 2000s MTV and a show made for teens and young adults. So you see things like someone putting a car airbag under a couch cushion then blowing their friend into the ceiling, slingshot any heavy items into each other's balls, and of course increasingly more dangerous and painful wedgies. And of course pranks that end with a guy's face and another guy's ass. Now a few minutes ago I did say these people were supposed to be friends, right? I'm sure there's some deep philosophical reason of why white boys find this type of humor funny despite the fact always crying about society trying to take away their masculinity. Maybe we can unpack that later, I don't know. But just to prime you, understand what I mean by the homoerotic bro comedy, I said, but hey, maybe these were just young adults and it's some phase like that time black people were all wearing polo and cardigans. I'm gonna give y'all a heads up now. I see my average viewer age. Just going to stretch y'all cast and back now, because we about to discuss some freaky ass niggas you might need to run for your life. First up, we have Andrew Schultz, who you might know as the guy rocking the creepy Uncle Lenny, definitely don't leave kids around him, or those 10-year-old Boy Scouts mustache. And one of his many homophobic sets about gay men.
I'm not gonna lie, I was frightened. I understand women now. I understand what women go through at a nightclub, bro. I do. Dead serious. I left the bar, I put a napkin on my drink. I was like, I'm not taking any chances with these. These motherfuckers got their shirt on. I'm not playing around with them. They half ready to.
Aside from it being low-hanging fruit, like, I thought we was done with comedians doing gay jokes about 10 years ago. And see, before I thought only hack chitlin circuit comedians relied on stereotypical jokes about queer men not being able to control their lust. Hold on, I was going to move on, but God, I really hate Andrew Schultz's lame ass. For one, he laughs at his own jokes more than the crowd. I'm convinced he has some type of fetish with black men. Half of his crowd work videos are talking about black men's sex life or if they were gay or who they're dating. It's just weird. Like, I know FD Signifier and Lil Bill both talked about this in past videos, but white men fantasizing about black men's genitalia is clearly a major talking point among a lot of white guys. I mean, shit, we aren't the ones that invented the interracial cup category on, you know, the woohoo sites. And again, I've been to many comedy shows. Most of you all noticed the poster I've had since I started this channel is a signed poster of Ali Sadiq, stand-up comedian. I saw in the year 2020, literally 2 weeks before the world shut down from, you know, the Rona. Now, I'm not going to say bad comics rely on crowd work, but he's so polished, he pretty much jumps right into his set, and he did it every time over the 3 times that I saw him. I did a poll for my community post. Only about half of you have ever seen live comedy in person. And I'm sure a majority of the people on YouTube who are 20-something terminally online folks haven't seen live stand-up despite its entire channels about stand-up comics and deconstructing them.
That gay eye contact, bro. That's stronger than Wolverine claws, man. That it's like they trying to find any little bit of gay in you.
But speaking of stand-up comedy, since podcasts are going full commercialized instead of those things hosted by people you've never heard of doing, you know, entire shows based around episodes of The Simpsons and X-Files back in the day, how it started. Comedians talking about stand-up comedy with other comedians is one of the most popular niches. And boy, do white guys love to talk about what it would be like if they were gay, or if they actually are gay, then joke like it's all a bit. And now that we're living in the post-Me Too world, it's no longer acceptable for movies like Porky's and American Pie, where a lot of the humor is basically sexual assault on women. So white men interpreted it that as, but if I'm straight, it's okay if I do it to another man, right? To say they missed the point would be an understatement. I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. The guy that inspired this video and made me wonder what's up with white humor is Chris Stefano. On every podcast I've seen of him, he has 2 bits, either about how Puerto Rican his Puerto Rican girlfriend is, which after so many years, it really seems like he fetishizes her, and how he's not gay but jokes about being gay, but he's really not gay.
I don't know that I'm gay, but I will say confidently that I have sex with women, but I fall in love with men. So I would very much.
You're emotionally gay.
I'm emotionally gay.
Yeah.
All those things are gay. So sometimes I feel like I can say that F word, which is derogatory, and I don't mean any harm, but I could say it because I know deep down I am one. I know that there's one just pouncing around in there.
Oh yeah, I can see a little Tigger inside of you, man.
Yeah, because
I put it like this. I listen to a whole bunch of podcasts by people with different comedians and that are in the entertainment industry. Some have hosts or guests where they're either lesbian or gay. And when I tell you, Chris Stefano brings up being not gay, but gay more than any actual out of the closet person. And if he was actually gay, I'd be like, okay, hey, that's his life. But when every podcast appearance is that, I don't know, man. He even used the, oh, well, I'm too okay joking about being gay for it to be true. Which is strange, but okay, Chris.
He's like, you're a gay guy would be like the opposite of you.
Yes, a closeted
Yeah.
gay man is going to be very afraid to even say those
Yeah,
things
he was
out
like,
loud.
you're not. There's no way you're gay, dude.
Now, to all my regular white boys that support the channel, I know it's not all of y'all because I regularly appear on my homie Adam Todd Brown's podcast. His guests are like 90% white folks and comedians in the LA area, and none of them rely on these jokes like that. But that's probably more of him having a podcast with the actual theme each episode. Like I said, all of these comedy podcasts are just white guys talking to other white guys that do comedy. And apparently they talk long enough, it comes out.
Being gay for no reason, man. Yeah, thank God these are man on man preventative. Bro. Wow. It's too much. Wow. It's too much, guys.
And just to make sure that I wasn't tripping, I did the highest form of research known to man by going on Reddit and searching these guys' names to see what others say about them. Because there's no way that would lead to confirmation bias, right? See what I did there? That's called sarcasm, baby. And a lot of people agree with me that Chris D sure brings up being homosexual out of the blue for a straight guy. It's like the opposite of pause or no homo, which is honestly something Harlem guys still do. Like, New York niggas confirmed that Harlem guys play pause games well into their 80s.
Pause. I gotta bring it up. It's called pause. Load management. Load management.
Listen, I would love to disagree with anything you said, but I'm 100% exactly on the same type of time you want. To go back to the original question before we get to load management, pause.
And if you don't understand that part, I'm sorry. We moving on. This is not the goddamn Explain Black Culture to Black People channel. What am I? Never. See, I was gonna diss a YouTube channel, but I'm more mature now. I just turned 34. I drink Mexican mules and save my PTO for days I don't want to leave the house during winter. And to make it fair, because hey, for all I know, stand-up and podcasts is like NBA shoot-arounds and actual NBA games. In shoot-arounds, we see Ben Simmons actually shooting the ball. In regular games, he pisses his pants during a layup. So I checked out some of Chris Stefano's stand-up. It's not really stand-up. It's more of him rambling with stories you've heard from his podcast about being really white and not liking the white hipsters that moved into his part of New York, and how his girlfriend and kids are Puerto Rican because it's going to be illegal to be white soon. So he had half Puerto Rican kids on purpose. One thing you'll notice is a lot of these guys just repeat stories from their podcasts during a stand-up special.
I was walking home one night and I heard him in the garage and he's making like a sun, like a for Christmas, like a wooden shirt, like a, you know, there you go. Not as nice. That one is nice.
Wooden shirt.
Yeah, can you get
That's
more?
a real. Oh, but that's like a sculpture.
Yeah, that's nice.
Like Theo Von. Because comedy has changed in the post-pandemic world, comedian podcasts are a relatively new genre. And if you've seen one podcast of white comedians, you've honestly seen them all. But they only slightly vary depending on the host by either conservative, police bootlicking, MAGA bro, and white liberal who has to remind you he has black and gay friends every 5 minutes. And the big kicker is none of them have like an actual theme. Every episode is we just talking out, and the big ones do get millions of views, which is really only a handful of these podcast shows. But personally, y'all, I got bored of these a couple years ago. Hearing a bunch of rich people insulated from society and working class people complain about how everyone being sensitive or divided. No divided. One side is okay with taking women's rights away for their own bodies and dismantling public schools and getting black people fired from any job of status because of DEI. Which brings us to Theo Von. So about a year ago, YouTube recommended some episode of Theo's podcast. And to explain what happened, I had to do a quick detour and explain the alt-right playbook. And if it's any doubt, yes, Theo Von is 100% a far-right conservative MAGA bro. But Theo started off his podcast years ago interviewing people like, I don't know, tow truck drivers and plumbers. That along with comedians you really have to be deep into stand-up comedy to even know or heard of. Then during the 2020 pandemic, as we all tried to figure things out, and some states encourage wearing masks in public and vaccinations so old people and immune-compromised people don't die, along with Donald Trump's second campaign, Theo became super patriotic. Rants about why don't people love America and the police and we shouldn't trust scientists. TikTok algorithms realize, oh wow, these things are very divisive and make people angry. That along with his made up stories of his redneck rural town with guys with no arms and kids wearing wooden shirts. Theo started going viral. He built a very loyal fan base of angry white men. We'll get back to that later. So as all of this was happening, I had no clue. I had never heard of him. I discovered one of his non-political episodes. It was kind of funny, but you know, had a few scoops of white humor, but I mean, that's his thing. He really plays up the Southern thing. He rocks a mullet and calls himself a rat king. You know, he just says nonsense. Then after a couple episodes, I started realizing it wasn't a bit. He go on these rants about not understanding why people don't love America and this far right about Donald Trump, while sprinkling in racist dog whistles. It was around this time I discovered from Reddit he was upset because of his episode with comedian Rosie O'Donnell got taken down because she's a Holocaust denier, and they then claimed that everything she said it was meant as a joke and sarcasm. But joke or not, he has a pattern of hanging with right-wing folks or the whole culture war crowd. You know, really rich straight white men that somehow convince themselves they're the most persecuted in America. If you look at the 3 most viewed episodes of his show, it's Joe Rogan, Louis C.K., and Tucker Carlson. He's also had Jordan Peterson on multiple times. What I'm saying is he's a right-wing shill who tries to play it off by having people like Sexy Red on, then ask her political questions. He knows she's not qualified to answer for entertainment if it's mostly white audience to laugh at her. But John, isn't this the homoerotic section? Alright, goddamn. Can I get my preamble out the way? Rat think something. Okay, so Theo Von's whole thing is this redneck sense of humor, almost deadpan, so when he says ridiculous things, like he had a neighbor with one ear, or he used to eat grass as a kid, you're supposed to take it kind of seriously, even though it sounds funny. Like, in this clip, he brings about he used to watch men hook up behind the Shoney's, which is just like a chain of diner type restaurants.
And they used to have men would go back there and hook up and make out with each other.
Sure.
Or behind the rest area by the interstate. And so it would be fun for us to go watch and like kind of, it was like not like that, not aggressively watch, just watch.
It's very strange to me that so many straight white comedians' humor relies on gay culture, either fantasizing about it or just, weirdly observing it. And yes, I'm sure the story was a joke, but if every video and podcast appearance I made jokes about, wanting a petite Asian wife that does anime cosplay for me, after a while, you guys would be like, it sounds like he has an Asian fetish. Now, I don't have a degree in psychology or anything, but I have a theory. Not to get too deep in my breadtube bag, but when it comes to the guys I talk about in this section, like me, they all subscribe to ideas of traditional masculinity. And that's where the similarities end. A guy like Theo Von, who's built his fan base off of right-wing anti-woke men, have been taught to hate anything that goes against that masculine idea. So when jokes about it, it's more likely than not that he has some homosexual thoughts he's been suppressing for years. We all aware of the trope of the super macho man who are closeted homosexuals, but it's possible men like Theo Von and Chris Stefano, they have these thoughts and don't have the courage to acknowledge it and come out. Now, it's none of our business if these men are actually bisexual or whatever category they will fall under, but we have to admit it's rather strange that they make so much of their entertainment about that part of their personality. Wasn't even sure if I was going to include in this script because I typically like minding my straight ass business. It's the marketing for the movie Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, I actually enjoyed the first two Deadpool movies a lot, but the marketing for this one is so, for people that don't know, Deadpool is canonically pansexual, but every trailer, poster, and marketing popcorn bucket, yes, I swear to God, that's a thing, is about him being overly sexual with Wolverine, to the point I'm wondering if I want to even just maybe wait for this movie to hit streaming because I'm worried it'll be all juvenile, haha, I put my boner on this man who's clearly not attracted to me jokes. I promise, I'm not trying to be the fun police here.
What you thinking about?
Get the fuck off of me. Shh. Almost done.
Almost done what? Getting my knife out of your buttocks, you pervert! Get your mind out of my pants!
But it seems the marketing is getting really uncomfortably close to the, well, straight masculine man can't be sexually assaulted trope, which at best is lazy writing and at worst makes young guys feels like this okay and also paints queer men as perverts. Also because of the way America power structure is set up, white men don't really lose anything by cosplaying as queer men because they're still white at the end of the day. Now, I can't speak too much on it, but I do know it's a disconnect between the struggles of white queer folks and black queer folks. I would suggest checking out the YouTube creators Princess Weeks and Khadijah. They can speak on this with a lot more knowledge than me, and they also touch on it in different videos.
And as of 2020, the song has been certified 6 times platinum and has sold 4.8 million copies in the United States and is the 10th best selling single in the 21st century. With this song, Catherine Elizabeth Hudson went from failed Christian rock singer Katie Hudson to Katy Perry, pop singer and one of the world's best-selling music artists, having sold over 18 million albums and 125 million singles worldwide. And it all started with a commercial, capitalistic, bisexual fetishization song. It was a bop, though.
Now, I didn't grow up around white people. In fact, from middle school to the time I graduated high school, it was only 2 white students. But what I do know is white boys' sense of humor is very edgelord and based on homoerotic. Now, I thought that was something that they would grow out of by their 30s at least. You know how when you were younger and immature, you believed things like, if we voted the right politician in, we get police reform and laws that help the middle and lower class. But nope, white boys clearly do this till old age. Take this clip of 2 of the right wing's favorite, actually, they not right wing, they just like to have an open conversation, always end up platforming alt-right influencers and right-wing talking points. Joe Rogan and Theo Von debate on the least gay way to give a man a happy ending.
No, because it's not. You could still use this hand to be on your phone. You can do. But otherwise,
again, then you're not concentrating. Look, once you commit to doing something gay, just get it done, son.
Yeah.
Just get after it.
That's true.
Okay? You don't want to be out there halfway. You're pretending that you're looking at your mentions.
But to be fair, I checked out some of his stand-up. For all I know, he could be like one of those rappers that can drop a great freestyle on Sway in the morning, but can't make a hit record. It's a difference. The special I watched was called Regular People.
I brought this gender-neutral haircut, you know that. Don't even come at me with that equality shit. You don't know what gender I am. Might be the toughest lesbian you've ever seen, boy. Bitch, I'm Margaret. Ball is life.
Now, maybe because I'm spoiled, I'm used to comedians whose jokes, roll into each other subtly, almost like they taking you on a trip. Classic guys like Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, Lil Rel. This special was fucking awful. He starts off talking about how he has a gender-neutral haircut, and then he might get confused for a lesbian, and he tries to invert his penis so he can't get in trouble in society. Then moves on to one of his bits he's told on his podcast about a guy with no arms that lived in this town that used to fight everybody. So I'll say it like this. As someone who's been to small venues and seen comics work out material for bigger tours and specials, this was bad, even for that level. Like I said, I did a poll on my community feed a few weeks back asking who's ever been to a comedy show. Only about half said yes. So I'll explain. So say you go to the Funny Bone. It's a chain. They have multiple locations around America. You might see a comedian you've heard of. It's going to normally be announced ahead of time, like Neil Brennan or Hassan Minaj. They come out and do maybe about 45-minute set. During that time, they're working out jokes to see how you react. And they might use this same set for 2, 3, 4 years before it's used on tour or a special, and they sell it to Netflix. And also, that's why the trend of please don't record us in some places make you zip it away, because they're working on something that they're going to sell. So that small venue, it may not be their best work, but normally it's really good if it's a good comedian. Like Ali Sadiq, I've seen several times in the exact Funny Bone venue. And then you have a step below that. You have pretty much open mic drop-ins. Now this other type, you normally only experience this one that I'm going to explain in the major city like LA and mostly New York. It's unannounced at some crowd club. That's probably free, or the tickets are really cheap to get you in. And literally anyone might drop in. Like I said, especially in New York, this is more common. Chris Rock might show up like Batman out of nowhere and do 10 minutes of literally brand new material he wrote a few days ago. And he might bomb for 10 minutes straight, or get a good couple minutes of jokes and he'll just trash the other material. So by the time they get to the point of a Netflix special or HBO special or any other special, it's supposed to be like an artist dropping an album. And that's the most offensive thing about D.O. Von's stand-up. It feels like he just showed up to an open mic, rambled about culture war shit, and left. Now the good thing is, his fan base isn't completely brainwashed. It's a small but growing amount of people on his own subreddit that are essentially saying what I'm saying, that his live shows are basically him saying random shit like on his podcast, except he doesn't have a guest to bounce that energy off of. And before I move on, I mentioned how he has developed a racist right-wing fan base. Multiple stories are out of his audience chanting racist that would get this video age restricted. I'm not even joking, but you can guess what it is. If y'all want to, somebody remind me on the next live stream. I'll tell you what they were talking about. It was a thread about it. And no, I won't play devil's advocate, because if your audience starts chanting racist and you don't make them cut that out, that's on you. Not only that, his comedy is just lazy, but as we talk about later, he's playing for a right-wing culture wars crowd. So as long as the joke is, this gender is dumb, or buzzwords like gender neutral haircut, they'll laugh their black rifle coffee drinking asses off. So to go back to our experiment, in order to make the most successful comedian, we had to make at least 40% of his bit about not being gay, but if he was, Chapter 2, Angry White Man. So I was at the coffee shop and I ordered a coffee, and the guy said to me, "I'm not gonna serve you unless you tell me your pronouns." So I said my pronouns are no more DEI, cause he was black and I was late for work because of the trans people. That's pretty much every white stand-up angry comedian's bit in 2024. Which is kind of weird, because straight white guys, for being the most angry people, they still control everything in America. Look at who makes real money in major sports. Almost all the owners are white guys. Fortune 500 CEOs, white. Movie directors, head coaches, chefs, doctors. But because some cartoon movie had a scene with two moms that fist bump, the world's gone woke. I'm gonna let y'all in on a little secret. Not many things I'm afraid of, but one is large bodies of water, because you know, whales, sharks, giant squids and such. Also, I seen the movie Castaway when I was like 12, and I'd rather die than be stranded on an island. But the other I'm much more terrified of, and not nearly as easy to avoid as the ocean is, an insecure, angry white man. Them motherfuckers are like land sharks with rabies. The week you watch this video, it'll probably be another man by an angry white man. As I edit the script for this video, they just arrested a guy who was planning to a Bad Bunny concert to start a race war with black people. Turns out dumbass didn't know that Bad Bunny is Latino, and niggas don't really rock with him enough to go to his concert.
In Phoenix, Prieto tried recruiting that informant and an undercover FBI agent. According to court records, Prieto wanted to carry the plan out in Georgia because, he says, when he was a kid, that was one of the most conservative states in the country. More specifically, Prieto wanted to carry out the attack at a rap concert because he said there would be, quote, a high concentration of African Americans.
Which is to say, the whole angry straight white guy bit isn't as appealing when we know it's a good chance at least one of your fans might go commit a hate crime after he finishes his 4-pack of Dragon's Nest IPA from the small batch brewery and jumps in his $80,000 pickup truck. And of course he needs a running start to get in it, because of course he's 5'7", and that's the reason he can't get a second date from Bumble, and not the fact he chewed tobacco and brought up vaccines on the first date. I'm sorry, short guys. I know all of you aren't assholes, but maybe at the next national convention of short men, beat Bill Maher with a sack of oranges until he agrees to retire. I didn't even know this guy still had a TV show. Not only does he very much still have a TV show, it's on season 22 at HBO. You know, I guess the network only had room for one overly serious know-it-all that could, well, actually, the fun out of a lap dance. So, sorry, Bomani Jones, your show had to be the one to be canceled. Bill Maher is part of comedy the same way a pulled pork salad from the barbecue restaurant is still technically eating the vegetables and salad for the day. But not too long ago, Maher made the mistake of having fellow angry white Bill on the show, Bill Burr. Bill Maher has the smugness of someone who calls you a bitch on Twitter while having an anime PFP and throwaway account, so he'll never face consequences. So what I'm saying is, hell no, I didn't watch the full interview. Also, Maher's like a 5'6" shrimp, but Maher got the bright idea to try and talk college students protesting a war to Bill Burr and expecting him to eat it up.
Yeah, that's easy to say. You know, no one wants to see kids. This is a war.
That was very brave of you to say
this is a war. No, I'm the one who's actually brave on this.
Pat yourself on the back.
It's easy to say I'm for the kids. Who's not for the kids?
Well,
it comes down to real hard-nosed decisions. Like a country.
Stop talking like you're a general.
A country got attacked.
It's not your thing. It's what you.
That is my.
It isn't your thing.
This is not your thing.
You're like that guy that has a fantasy football team and thinks he's a GM.
No.
That's exactly what it is. Like, why am I listening to you like you've done something?
Maybe he figured because Bill Burr reads out loud about as well as I spell, which isn't very good, that Bill would just go with it, or, you know, because Maher will be able to SAT word his way into winning the argument. Despite being 70 years old, I guess Maher has been rich so long, he's been able to insulate himself from people that tell him he's a jackass or something. He's just used to hanging with smarty art types. But old Billy Ballhead wasn't having it.
On their fry-up?
No.
That's an asshole thing to do. To use the English word for fuck in California.
Okay, but
I'm one more reference away from taking this mic off and just walking out. I want to make a list of all the things I didn't know, and I'm just gonna say them all to my wife tonight. She's like, "Who are you on mushrooms? What are you talking?"
Oh.
The Garrett. You totally have the energy of, you forgot to give out the homework assignment, Mrs. So-and-so. Highbrow.
Well, it's true.
Does your jokes float above ours? Why, because you say Setmet Tank or something? It sounds like you have a gig coming up in Boston and the tickets are a little slow.
No.
That's where Harvard is. For a guy like you,
I know that.
That's got to be the Taj Mahal. I love that
I
bugged
hate
you.
Harvard.
Bill Maher reminds me like 80% of video essays on his site. He's so full of himself and makes enough money that his team of yes men not dare tell him he's wrong. Oh, and this show was on his podcast, not the HBO show, because of course he has a podcast. Now, being an angry white comedian isn't always a bad thing. You gotta be really funny for it to not come off as old man yells at cloud. I'm willing to bet that's what offends Bill Burr the most about these nerd ass guys like Maher. See, old Billy Bitch Shit's kinda invented the angry comic bit, and he's really good at it when he's hitting on all cylinders. His SNL monologue roasting white women is a classic.
Let's go back in history here, okay? You guys stood by us toxic white males through centuries of our crimes against humanity. You rolled around in the blood money, and occasionally when you wanted to sneak off and hook up with a black dude, if you got caught, you said it wasn't consensual. Yeah, that's what you did. That's what you did. So why don't you shut up, sit down next to me, and take your talking to.
And I'm sure some find Bill's comedy more mean angry than fun angry. But y'all, he's a 50-year-old white guy from Boston with a black wife and 2 biracial kids. Because he's not a hack, you wouldn't even know that unless someone like me brings it up, because he talks about it sometimes on his podcast. Oh, and don't bring up the Boston thing around him.
Oh, and we have a wonderful guest who already came in hot. The real hot take about the city of Boston. Oh, the white people love white people up in Boston, because then they get to act like they're not racist and there's no issues in their Maybury. Live from the Andy Griffith show, but up we got Dan fucking leotard. Go ahead, Dan.
Go ahead. What do you mean?
Go about how woke you are.
No, you came on the podcast here. We interrupted you. You were grilling and you didn't want to stop grilling. And now you're on the podcast. And by way of saying hello,
Dan Le Batard made that mistake. For y'all that don't know, Dan Le Batard is a pretty well-known Cuban sports radio host that used to work for ESPN. I only mention he's Cuban because Dan loves to remind us of his Miami Cuban heritage, despite the fact him, his father, and all of his Cuban friends he employs are white passing and thus have access to white privilege. But Dan is one of those guys. So, you ever watch a show or YouTube streamer who won't lean completely into calling their show a comedy or say that they're a comedian, but they still try and get a pass for being goofy and, getting facts wrong all the time under the guise of, well, it's an entertainment show. That's pretty much the Le Batard show. He also gets hard on for any political culture war thing. Especially the last couple of years, he really has a hard on for comics. He sees them as modern day philosophers and the bravest man on earth. And then Bill Burr tore him a new one.
I want to know where you live. Because I'm not saying Boston isn't fucking racist, but this fucking bullshit that white guys like you try to do, that racism exists only in the South and in Boston, Massachusetts, is a crock of shit. I've been on the road for 30 fucking years, and the fucking shit people have said to me, and because I got my wife, I got to go home to her and all of that shit, I had to learn how to fucking navigate, like knowing the N-word was coming. And that happened to me in every fucking state. Maybe a couple of cities. So don't come at me, Dan, with, Boston. They're making all white people look bad. Got it.
For the record, who came at you? Nobody came at you. And I know America's racist. I believe
then stop with this fucking horse shit that it's like everybody else can fucking do their bullshit, right? And then all of a sudden it's just like, oh my God. How about every time the Lakers win a fucking championship, within 20 minutes, a police car is turned upside down and on fire? What is that an expression of? So don't fucking come at me with this, Boston again. Get the fuck out of here.
Who came at you with anything, Bill? I was saying hello to you.
You did, with the moral high ground, like your heart was broken.
Yes, Boston does have history of being pretty racist sports town. But also, Trump got most of the Latino vote in Miami last election thanks to Cubans, so why don't you speak on that, Le Batard? I don't care what state or city you live in America. Drive about 10 minutes outside of a major city or suburb, and all that shit is basically Alabama. Especially if you're a black man driving through the city. Okay, but back to Burr. Not only does he balance the anger guy act, he's now in this dad arc, at least on his podcast. While I can't relate to it, listen, Jawn Louis told you about prison reform, but I am not your savior. If you're looking for a video about 100% unproblematic comedians, I can't help you. This is not the one. But also, unlike Chris DiStefano, who we talked about earlier, Bill was also in an interracial relationship. The thing is, it's not 80% of his personality and jokes. Hey white guys, I'm sorry. I guess it is possible to be married to a dark-skinned black woman and not give off fetish vibes. It's in my opinion that not only do right-wing everything gets woke, I hate pronouns, you can't say anything, folks suck. But also, so do left wing, okay, and here's why that song is misogynoir. The X-Men movies are ableist because they use the term mutant, and I don't watch sports, but here's why the WNBA players should get their own video game. Left folks aren't funny. Not only are they not funny, they ruin everyone's fun, and not seem to understand the concept of humor.
But it's all true.
Oh, this is nothing but dead white male bashing from a PC thug. It's women like you who keep the rest of us from landing a husband.
I didn't think this was an actual thing, but like a broken clock is right 2 times a day, the anti-wokes were right. It does seem to be a trend of younger generations, in fact, upset about the movie Tropic Thunder. They somehow completely missed the point of Robert Downey Jr.'s character getting surgery to play a black man.
People always need it. They need it so badly.
and they don't get it. It used to be you would go home at the end of the day, most people would go, oh, Cheers is on, oh, MASH is on, oh, Mary Tyler Moore is on, All in the Family's on. You just expected, there'll be some funny stuff we can watch on TV tonight. Well, guess what? Where is it? This is the result of the extreme left and PC crap and people worrying so much about offending other people. When you write a script and it goes into 4 or 5 different hands.
Speaking of, you can't say that anymore. Jerry Seinfeld, you may not know it because Hollywood types can afford expensive surgery and upkeep, but this serial and Superman obsessed dork is 70 years old. So you can probably guess his opinions on comedy and sitcoms, but let's have a look anyway. Ladies, men that like to be offended on behalf of ladies, just know that I use the term bitch as a gender neutral term, and I think Jerry Seinfeld's kind of a bitch. Seinfeld was on some podcast crying about, oh, people used to come home and watch sitcoms together and find funny shows. Then names 4 shows that premiered 40 years ago. You know, Jerry, I noticed you blaming the extreme left in old ass shows. Maybe Mr. Born in the 1950s just misses when only white people got to make TV shows. Because in the 1990s, Fox had the reputation of being a network that pushed things to the edge of what you can do in the 90s. And the little show called Martin was one of the biggest on the network, along with The Simpsons. Man, you know what? Fuck that. We're done with the 90s. How about the present? And I know some of y'all like, what's Jerry talking about when South Park and Always Sunny are still on air right now? That's an obvious point. That's why I make videos and you consume them. No, I'm joking. I love you guys. But literally everyone online has made that point. But maybe Jerry isn't an old racist misogynist twerp that misses the days of all white male write-ins. Maybe he's just mad that it turns out that he's really Bill Belichick. For non-sports fans, for years it was always this debate. Yeah, the Patriots won 5 Super Bowls, but was it Brady or was it Belichick? For this example, I'm going to pretend like that's not a donkey brains question because it really takes both of them. But eventually, they split after a fight. Something about Bill Belichick always made Tom Brady use the piece of shit Mad Catz controller back in the OG Xbox days, and they never got over that. So Tom Brady leaves the Patriots, goes to stank-ass Tampa Bay, Florida, gets divorced, some weird-ass plastic surgery, and wins the Super Bowl. While back in New England, old Bill Belichick is bad. He's bad. The Patriots are so bad, they just fired him last season. Well, John, what does that have to do with Jerome Seinfeld? How about you calm down and I tell you? Since the show ended, Larry David, creator of Seinfeld, a main writer for the golden era of the show, went on to create Curb Your Enthusiasm. If you've never seen or heard of it, I have no idea how you found a person like my channel, but hey, whatever.
What? I thought you hated watermelon. What's going on? Okay. Lie, okay? I love watermelon. I love it, but I can't eat in front of white people. What? That's just ridiculous. I just can't do it. You can't eat watermelon in front of me? That's so crazy. In front of white people? Why? Who gives a shit? Even black people don't like to see black people eat fucking watermelon. You probably love it too, don't you? My favorite fruit in the world. Mine too. Plenty of times I've been to cocktail parties, I gotta put the freaking watermelon in a little napkin and go in the bathroom and eat the shit. Go into the woods. And I open the napkin and eat the watermelon by myself. Oh.
Not only is Curb extremely popular, it's made just about every offensive joke you can think of. And it ain't a fluke, baby. I can say baby, it's not offensive. It's like some 1950s slang, not misogynistic term to infantilize women. I asked around if the women who don't have a stick up their ass get mentioned. They assured me that it's fine. And maybe you said, well, that's Larry David, John. Of course he created 2 of the most well-known American comedy series of the last 30 years. Phil Jackson won championships coaching the Lakers and Bulls with Kobe and Jordan. They're a different level. To which I say, hey, you know a little bit about sports. Want to grab some beer and buffalo wings after this? But also, fine. What about Veep? A show starring his co-star from Seinfeld, Julia Louis Dreyfus. Jesus Christ, woman. Did your parents enter or use as many letters in the alphabet contest?
trust me and the people of Ohio, I think there's going to be quite a few surprises tonight.
Isn't that the catchphrase of the world's creepiest babysitter? Speaking of creepy, Kent Davison is back.
Kent Davison? The Pol Pot of pie charts, wow.
You can't reason with him. It'd be like explaining Supertramp to a Komodo dragon.
I don't know what those words mean. Mike, are you in the middle of some sort of aneurysm?
It was an accident, okay? Much like when Bigfoot got your mom pregnant, resulting in you.
No, I never really got into Veep, but from the clips I've seen, it's the complete opposite of the you can't say anything these days be talking about. But it's not only that Jerry Seinfeld was the greatest role player in sitcom history. I mean, if he was a food, he'd be a potato. I like potatoes, but them shit's nasty plain. Give it to a good chef, you can make fries, mashed potatoes, scalloped potatoes. You get the point. What the fuck am I, bubblegum shrimp? While I still admit, as someone who didn't binge Seinfeld until a year ago, the show is a goddamn classic. Amazing jokes and writing. Would it have been any different with any other white male comedian from the 90s starring? I'm not even being an asshole. Kramer's actor seems irreplaceable. George Costanza's actor seems irreplaceable. Elaine was a breakout female comedic character. And then there's Jerry. Even die-hard fans who watch the show as it aired are like, yeah, when I rewatch it, I skip past the stand-up intros. So maybe it's you, Jerry. Maybe you aren't funny. But do you all even know where this started from? About 4 or 5 years ago, Jerry was working on some material for a Netflix special, and he got upset that people online and at some college didn't find his joke about a gay French king funny that he'd been working on. In his mind, the reason people didn't find it funny is because the joke is about a gay guy and you can't say anything about the gays. Not because it's corny, it sounds like some shit from 1995. Here's the clip. Hopefully I don't have to cut it editing.
They don't seem very important. Not the way you scroll through their names on your contact list like a gay French king. Who pleases me today? Who shall I favor? Who shall I delete?
Or maybe Jerry's mad because people keep bringing up the fact he was dating a 17-year-old in 1993 when he was 39 years old. Well, why don't you get the people some jokes about that, Jerry? I bet the people would love to hear some jokes about what it's like for a 39-year-old man to date a 17-year-old high school senior. What are you, Andy Bernard?
You ever notice how girlfriends are always talking about math homework? What is going on with that? Girlfriends, all they talk about is going to science class. A girlfriend's life revolves around home. They got homework, homeroom, and they want to run away from home and live with their 38-year-old celebrity boyfriends. I met my girlfriend's parents the other day. Why is it that girlfriend parents are the same age as you? What is the math? I'm studying for the SAT, I gotta know! And why are they called parents? The pair that pays your rent? You can just live in my penthouse. I'm an adult man. I'm very rich and famous. I'm 38 years old. I'm dating a 17-year-old. I'm going to prom next week. Prom. What a waste of a Saturday. I'm going as a date and a chaperone. That's 2 proms for the price of 1. That's 2 proms. It's 2. I'm going to 2 proms. That's 2 proms too many for someone 2 times the age of his girlfriend plus 2 twice. I'm 38 years old. I don't have to spike the punch. I turned 21 your age ago. Alright, thanks guys so much. Before I go, please check out my new TV show, Comedians in Cars Teaching Their Girlfriends How to Drive for the Road Test.
The thing is, Jerry falls into the casual observational comic. It's kind of like being a Force user in Star Wars. Oh, the nerds ears perked up for that one. Y'all was ready to cut me off with the sports metaphors earlier. But observational comedy is kind of like being a force user, meaning it's like a 50% chance you'll become a bitter, out of touch old man the audience grows to hate, so you seek to destroy everything, or remain that everyman relatable comic that's a millionaire. Part 3, sketch comedy and improv.
Well, your phones are poisoning your minds, okay?
Anyone talking to you.
It's not too many things whiter than being in an improv comedy group with a quirky name. I'm not knocking anyone that's done it. It's just white as hell, but I'm sure it's great as a third place and a way to build community. Even among white people, it's seen as dorky. Stand-up comics are like the rappers that can write an entire song with a hook and 3 verses. And improv comics are kind of like battle rappers. It's a very niche audience and style. But this subculture of whites has ties through generations of comedy, and it's actually a good way to improve performance skills. I listen to a lot of random podcasts that are comedy based. About half of the hosts and guests have ties to this community, and one of the more well-known brands, UCB, or Upright Citizens Brigade. I mean, listen to that name. I told y'all it was corny as hell, right? But their list of past members are pretty big names in comedy. Aziz Ansari, Aubrey Plaza, Amy Poehler, Donald Glover. Now, I'm very adventurous, but I'm not interested in seeing any of that Michael Scott.
Doctor here? Have you seen him? He's a very angry midget.
Boom! Freeze! Michael Schoon, FBI, you know you did. Boom! 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 Yeah, you thought you could get away with your little ruse, didn't you? Didn't ya?
Now, similar how a lot of stand-up comics end game is making it to the movies or TV show, improv comics have a similar goal, but that one is still surprisingly making it to Saturday Night Live. And if you like me, you're under the age of 50 years old. You probably haven't watched Saturday Night Live regularly since, what, pre-Obama election? But because it's a relatively cheap and fast show to make, it's still on air. Like I've said before, no race or nationality of people are a monolith. The white folks that were theater kids in high school then later joined improv groups. They aren't the same white folks that wear burnt orange chinos and won't shut up about boba tea. Also, what even is boba tea? Now I gotta chew my $10 drink? But also, can we get some improv classes in the hood? Cause if I gotta see one more skit disguised as a black couple having an argument with nonsense plot on social media, you know what? We're gonna move on.
Shake Shack might have been wrong. Shake Shack is nothing wrong. Then you order the chicken sandwich and stuff, like it's nothing wrong with Shake Shack. Shake Shack is a good spot. You tripping.
Really? So you could have took me nowhere else better than Shake Shack.
And Shake Shack is a good spot to go to.
I mean, this what you got me.
Any other
That's
female
it.
would have loved to go to Shake Shack.
You got me 2 sandwiches and a drink.
So what? And it cost me $50 for just this.
This cost you $50.
Brother, this guy
Let me see the receipt.
Outside of the one in every 10 to 15 years times they give black folks a budget, I'm looking at you, Loiter Squad and Black Lady Sketch Show. Improv and sketch comedy is wider than a heavy metal concert in Alabama. So a few months ago, before I purged my Twitter and unfollowed 90% of the white people because they won't shut about Elon and Mr. Beast, I kept seeing the most below medium funny clip I've ever seen. They kept tweeting 55 burgers, 65 fries, 55 shakes.
Stop! 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 Please let me go! Please let me go first! I'm doing something!
Hi, can I take your order?
55 burgers, 55 fries, 55 tacos, 55 pies, 55 coke, 100 tater tots, 100 pizzas, 100 tenders, 100 meatballs, 100 coffees, 55 wings, 55 shakes, 55 pancakes, 55 pasta, 55 pepper.
Some show called I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson. Every clip I see is just awful, dry, white humor. I look for clips on YouTube knowing the most viewed ones will show up. Hey man, we all don't have to agree with everything. Maybe it's like being a huge fan of Eminem past the year 2003. You gotta be white to understand it. If you've never seen the show, it's like dry humor somehow mixed with loud equals funny, which is my least favorite type of humor. But this show is apparently huge as far as what Netflix tells us. Even though it's corny, to me, he at least in the clips I seen tries. He doesn't really do homoerotic humor or anti-woke or angry white guy. The show is kind of like that 20-year-old dude at every company with the $60,000 pickup truck and a house that somehow always has money to hit the bar or strip club every weekend. It's probably inheritance money, but he's not about it. I think you should leave. It's like white privilege in comedy form is what I'm saying.
Did you see Brian's hat? He's still fucking wearing it.
What the hell?
Agree. Yes, I even saw 2 cubes in his pocket. I think he has dice, but he's afraid to show them to anyone.
What the hell are they even talking about?
I don't even know what the hell to consider Mark Rebuild. He does this.
I got that shit up inside my body. I got it inside.
I came across this guy when I used to watch some podcasts where comedians talk to each other. I guess he does musical comedy? I don't know. It feels like something you would see on Adult Swim at 2 a.m. in 2012. But that's the cool thing of whiteness. The population in America is so huge, it's people that enjoy whatever the hell this is. And also, it's so popular that he does DJ sets at festivals, I guess. I really don't have much to say about him. I think he blew up during the pandemic when everyone was bored. I'm sure at some point, people that watch the first 30 seconds of this video and comment going to say something like, oh, that Jawn Louis and his race-baiting videos, he doesn't like white comedy. He's probably from some kick-ass cool city like Detroit and only watches the Boondocks and Corey Holcomb. Well, they'd be right about the Detroit and Boondocks thing. But not only do I enjoy white comedy, I enjoy super white. I used to watch a show back in the day called The Whitest Kids You Know. I remember the Getting High with Dinosaur sketch very well.
All these dinosaurs are rolling bones tonight. We rolling bones tonight. We rolling bones tonight. Me and all these dinosaurs is getting stoned.
Not only that, while working on this, I said, you know what? What's some popular white I've heard of but never tried? You know, like calling my mom and slamming the bedroom door. Then I remembered this show called Portlandia. I'd never seen an episode of it, but what's whiter than a show that takes place in Portland on the ISE channel? The show captures what's amazing about sketch comedy.
Freud said you wanted to do it with your mom, right?
Freud did talk about the Oedipal complex.
Sit with your mom and go, hey, Mom, you know, I know having a good time looking through old family photos. You want to go up to the bedroom for a minute? Let me take off your blouse, give you a massage, you know, kiss in the neck. You can. That's my mom you're talking about. No, thank you.
Okay, Joey, our time is...
You get these ideas in your head, they turn into 3-minute sketches like early 2000s straight guy going to therapy.
Restaurant name, Planned Pizza Hood.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Love it.
I thought of Pizza Paul and Mary.
Love it.
That's good. Thinking...
Should we think more on the Italian thing?
Venice the Menace? I mean, it's just...
Yeah. I like it. I like the groan.
Or a company that comes up with pun names for other companies. It's pretty ironic that so many of these shows can get improv so right, while the OG of it, Saturday Night Live, has not been must-watch for anyone who could hop a fence and not be sore for a week, since like a decade before owning a home was a realistic dream of millennials. Yes, I know Drew Gooden made an entire video about Saturday Night Live 3 years ago, you nerd. I enjoyed the video, but I'm still going to talk about it. Keep in mind, I'm admittedly in a very black bubble on the internet. We talk about sports, how much I spend on a date, you know. So my experience would be different, but I swear in the last 10 years, I can only remember 2 SNL skits going organically viral for completely different reasons, good and bad. And you little sick freaky bastards, I know y'all want the bad one first. Well, spread eagle, I'm gonna give it to you. I seriously still cannot believe this made it to air.
Like me, only different colors and I'm a little fatter.
And did Mario have a dark side?
Yes, he started eating mushrooms. At first it was a microdosing, and then it became a macrodosing.
I seriously still cannot believe that this made it to air. First off, I'm sure the average person has never even heard of Wario or played one of his games. The concept for this seems like something that would appear on Nickelodeon's All That, a show aimed at preteens. This skit went viral for being so unbelievably unfunny, and it may have further destroyed the brain of Elon Musk, as he realized all those people that laugh at his jokes only laugh out of fear of being fired. SNL has some good writers. We just don't watch it because it's like 2.5 hours long. But the fact this weirdo got to host the show and pitch this skit, because who the thinks having Wario in a skit whose main audience is old people that can't figure out how to switch their TV to HDMI to and watch Hulu? And the other skit I remember organically going viral on Twitter was Black Jeopardy, with the late Chadwick Boseman playing the character of T'Challa.
This is the reason your cable bill is in your grandmama's name. Oh, T'Challa.
What is to honor her is the foundation of the family.
That's really nice. It's wrong.
Try to use a well-known character to base the skit around and then actual tropes black people know. Hey, pour out one for the OG Chadwick Boseman. Damn, I miss him. Okay, but this skit, written in a mostly white writer's room, is amazing. Watch the whole thing later. But in the last 10 years, the only sketch I remember people talking positively about doesn't even have white folks in it. But hey, who knows? Maybe the people at SNL could use a middle 30s black guy with a modest-sized YouTube channel to help liven things up. Hit my email, y'all. White liberal. What's not to love? They've given us such things as The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, BreadTube, you know, guys like Noah Sampson and Big Joe, whose video on conservative comedy actually inspired this video. Because as I watched it, I kept thinking, yeah, but white liberal comedy is really hit or miss. Sure, it's much better than whatever bullshit Daily Wire is making.
Some really great school uniform options to avoid misgendering.
Ooh, what about their allergies? Maybe those theys could be lactose intolerant.
No, we can't say intolerance. We have a zero tolerance policy for mentioning intolerance.
But in an effort to equally piss off and make amends with as many niches online as possible, we'll talk about the many subtle levels of white liberal comedy. Now, I truly love all types of comedy because most of my worldview was shaped by The Simpsons isn't the first to use satire to deliver comedy. See SNL, actually good seasons from back in the day. But for a lot of millennials, it's the first show we realize a comedy cartoon can be funny and have something to say. From jokes on the rise of biased cable news shows to the low pay and poor treatment of public school teachers, The Simpsons taught a generation of kids who wanted to do comedy and learn about the world. You didn't have to make lazy black people be like this, but white people, they like this jokes. It taught an entire generation what exactly a labor union was a decade after Ronald Reagan gutted a majority of them in this country.
Well, let's look at the contract ourselves, eh? Benefits, perks, a green cookie on St. Patrick's Day. Oh, it didn't used to be this way, Smithers. No, it didn't used to be this way at all.
And most importantly, it taught us that police are just an ineffective tool for the state to protect the rich and instill fear on the working class.
Mom, I know your intentions are good, but aren't the police a protective force that maintains the status quo for the wealthy elites? Don't you think we ought to attack the roots of social problems instead of jamming people into overcrowded prisons?
Look, Lisa, it's McGriff, the crime dog.
Bart, I must know. How did you untangle my web?
Yeah, Bart, fill us in.
Well, I'd hate to tell the #1 cop in town how to do his job.
No, please. It's the only way I'll learn. Well, ma'am, we've located a piece of machinery in Shreveport, Louisiana that could pop him out lickety-split.
Well, why don't you get it?
Well, I'm afraid we've got a budget problem, Mrs. Simpson. Your boy picked a bad time to fall down a well. Had he done it at the start of the fiscal year, no problemo.
She's locked in the car and refuses to move.
Well, did you flash your lights?
Yes.
Well, I'm fresh out of ideas.
Bart, the police haven't had any luck finding the teacher's editions.
The dogs have picked up the scent of books. Send in the battering ram.
Here we go.
It could be argued The Simpsons is more political satire than liberal comedy. It could also be argued that this is my goddamn video, I'll say what I want. While the series did become more wacky in season 4, it will always hold that perfectly aged, subtle critique of American life, religion, and nuclear family. While I love The Simpsons for everything it does right, some liberal I can't get jiggy with is Bo Burnham. Me, and according to the comments on my YouTube community post, a ton of black people had never even heard of this guy until the OG FD Signifier made a video about him and what he calls white liberal dread. Again, I know my Twitter experience is not a one-size-fits-all, but I've been on black Twitter for over a decade since before white media discovered it. And Bo Burnham has never come across, but apparently he's been doing stand-up for over 10 years. Wow, who knew? But I finally decided to check it out.
And also, keep watching.
You did it!
But I finally decided to check it out. You guys be surprised the type of shows I enjoy that we haven't even gotten to yet. And well, I can say me and Feek definitely disagree on what makes something funny. And now most of Bo Burnham's stuff is record label copyrighted because they songs, so I can't use clips from his big joint that went viral during the pandemic. But the best way I can describe him is Weird Al Yankovic meets Demetri Martin. I'm sorry, Zoomers, look up Demetri Martin. I can't explain every single reference I make. In one of his clips, he does a Venn diagram of Malcolm X and Weird Al Yankovic with him in the middle. It's an obvious joke, but I mean, yeah, that's the type of jokes you can expect. His whole thing is, I'm a straight white guy that's rich and confirm the typical ideas of masculinity, but I announced it, so that's something. Again, his comedy isn't even offensively bad like something such as Lady Ballers, where it's not really jokes, just statements. He's on a musical, playing the piano and singing about white guilt, capitalism, bad corporate elites. At one point, he pulls out a sock and does a sock puppet song. Again, I'm sure he's a nice guy, it's just too milquetoast for me to enjoy. It's offering the most basic commentary. I tapped out after 15 minutes. Maybe it gets deeper, but Bo Burnham is a perfect example of the idea of liberal white comedy. It's not very offensive and it makes white people feel good because they acknowledge something they don't experience, like putting a Black Lives Matter hashtag or an LGBT flag in their profile on social media. And notice I said hashtag and flag. Hey, white allies, you want to help black people? Talk to the emoji people. How about that? Y'all didn't even have to give us the red, black, and green Pan-African flag. We'll settle for the lesser known African American flag emoji. See, that's why black folk, we gotta learn how to lobby like the queer community. They shut up and the corporate like, here, goddamn, y'all get a rainbow flag and trans flag, but we're going to exploit and try and sell you in June. Here, buy some Disney merch, even though we didn't really defend you in Florida. And that's how rainbow capitalism works, kids.
I think I'd rather you just call me a slur.
While Bo Burnham's style of liberal comedy may not work for me, a series that came out in 2023 called The Curse does it perfectly.
This isn't your typical home flipping show.
My homes are reflecting the local community.
Come on. And we're husband and wife.
This is kind of rude.
So what could go wrong?
Holy self-awareness, Batman. This series first off shows the strength of having a real writer's room for a TV show, which is sadly becoming something of the past. The Curse is a series created by Benny Safdie, who along with his brother wrote Uncut Gems, and also by Nathan Fielder of the show Nathan for You in The Rehearsal. I highly recommend watching. But the series is so meta, it's hard to describe. Also, it's shot in a way where you feel like you're spying on the people on the show. Anyway, it's about Asher, played by Nathan Fielder, and Whitney, played by Emma Stone, who hosts a HGTV style home renovation show. But if you can dilute performative liberalism into ink, then write a script, it'd be this. Maybe they had some black writers, or they just actually know what we say about white liberals. Because the characters hit every note perfectly. I don't want to ruin it because I highly recommend watching it, even if you got to sail the 7 seas to find it. So it follows this couple whose reality show is about going into low-income areas and fixing the homes up. But it takes place in Arizona, and a lot of the areas is indigenous people land. So it's plots about gentrification. You have a Sudanese immigrant family into the plot who on some type of Section 8 program that also plays into the story. All of this while Whitney tries to downplay the fact that her wealthy parents are looked at as slumlords in the area, and they became rich off real estate. So to expel her white guilt, she tries to do things like make a reality show about making carbon zero footprint houses. It sounds boring, but trust me, it's not.
Thank you.
We're really good.
Got it. So all I had on me was that $100 bill.
No refunds.
That's not fair.
It
Come
is
on.
fair.
Let me go get change and...
What is that?
That's nothing. This is... You don't need to see this.
Why did you snatch back the money? Why didn't you just give her the 100?
I was gonna buy 6 of them for $20.
I curse you.
Not only that, Whitney also opens up some boutique jean store, which creates a whole new problem of her allowing anyone to just freely steal. Because she doesn't want her security guard she hired only so that he has an income to call the police and get anyone arrested. But you know what happens when word gets out that an expensive jean boutique won't allow the police and security won't do anything? Yeah, people are just stealing, and it kind of becomes a crime area. The commentary on liberals and suburban blacks' view on how the world should work. It works so amazing with splashes of what's going on that it single-handedly revived my faith that white liberals can actually make amazing satire and comedy on themselves. Hey John, didn't you say we were supposed to be creating a perfect comedian like half an hour ago? Oh my gosh, shut up, you Mark. I bet you reminded the teacher that homework was due too, huh? We passed that. Everyone else forgot about that mission. Move on. Jesus Christ. Okay, so this section is just called white people shit. I'm sure you think because of all that I'll just be dunking on white humor. Well, no actually. Just because it's white people doesn't mean others won't enjoy it. I mean, I like some white people. I've been to Topgolf a couple times. I switched from Hennessy to Johnny Walker, and I prefer Sunday brunch without a DJ and twerking. Some of you all may or may not be aware of the term two Americas. Best way to explain it is if you had a college football game and halftime approaching, at which point you decide to go make a bathroom break and snack run, determines the two America. Because you know the bands are going to be playing at halftime. One America is going to halftime. The other America is going halfway through the second quarter because they want to be seated when the band plays at halftime. Now, it's just a phrase because really it's multiple Americas, but that really doesn't sound as good. So for example, when it comes to white people, it's really two Americas. And honestly, this entire video can be described that way. You have white humor and you have American humor. One of my favorite examples is Atlanta, the FX show, and Dave also on FX. They sometimes compare it to each other because it shows about rappers on FX that are comedies, and that's where the similarities end. I've seen every episode of Atlanta at least about 2 to 3 times. While Atlanta is about the struggle of a bunch of broke boys living in the hood dealing with the struggles of being black men in America trying to make it in the music industry, Dave is some really white shit. I swear to God, I had no idea Lil Dicky was an actual rapper or a comedian or something before this series. I'd never heard of him. But it's like a full autobiography show or some shit about Dave. The show premiered in 2020, so it was during that era where we ain't have to do and it wasn't a lot of new shows and movies coming out. And yeah, this is a perfect example of white humor. This clip shows what I mean.
Y'all are gay?
No. Y'all could be homosexual all y'all want, but I ain't trying to hear about no gum and ass. Real shit.
You guys have never seen each before?
Oh, no. Come on.
Get it. You've never just like imagined like what Tone's look like.
Y'all crazy.
Just so you guys are aware, he's not meaning sexually in any way. He means like in terms of it being like fun.
Yeah,
Like
it's
funny.
no, it's like just it's funny. It's like
I'm sure a lot of non-white folks enjoy it, but Gator, his hype man, was the only character who had actual humor and a good story arc. So I tapped out after season 2. So much of Lil Dicky's humor is about his dick being weird and awkward life for acknowledging because he's white and a Jew, he got as far as he did as a musician. But it just falls flat to me. So many of these white comedians saying is, I have white privilege, but see, I said it out loud, ha ha ha, dick joke.
Except I'm white. Oh. It's a shitty reality, but white rappers sell more records, ticket sales. It sucks, but it's a cold hard truth. I hate that it's true, by the way. So I'm actually more like Eminem to the consumer, the highest selling rapper of all time.
we're not gay. We're just like
Rich and white, it ain't got else to do.
rich.
I'm not even that rich.
Okay, cut.
The show to me just feels like frat boy man-child humor that only white men in their 30s can get away with because being non-threatening white man has a lot of privilege in itself and you never really pushing the status quo. Unlike the much more superior Atlanta does. In 20 years, we'll still be talking about how Atlanta introduced a generation to Afro-surrealism a long time after Dave's jokes about looking at his friend has been forgotten. So enough about scripted shows. I know a lot of y'all don't like sports. Well, I don't play video games right now or watch anime. And I'm positive you understand the idea of how a team works. One of the most dominant sports dynasties of the last decade is the Golden State Warriors. During their prime, they had a duo called the Splash Brothers, consisting of Steph Curry, who's pretty much good at everything. I mean, he made a goddamn hole-in-one.
Boy, this is right at it if it gets there. How about that?
Are you kidding me?
And the less famous and talented Klay Thompson, who was an amazing three-point shooter that I never liked. I call him catch and shoot because that's all he does. He can't create his own shot, no layup package, no defense. And that's why no team ever made a big offer for him. Now, imagine if Klay Thompson one day said, hey, I'm tired of playing second fiddle to Steph. I want to be the point guard on my own team. Well, that's what happened with Adam Conover in his stand-up career. About a decade ago, True TV, also known as that network you watch reruns of and Practical Jokers on, had a series called Adam Ruins Everything.
Mega rich guys like Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, and Mark Zuckerberg have the media falling all over them. But in reality, this billionaire philanthropy is not as selfless as it seems.
It's basically if you gave a breadtuber a TV show, it has such episodes as Adam Louis Ruins Giving, where he talks about corporations giving away free shoes and socks with every purchase. It's really an elaborate tax loophole scam. Adam Ruins Hygiene, where he talks about how modern hygiene is all capitalist marketing. And Adam Ruins Weight Loss, where you can probably guess the episode.
Sure you're not, Ron, but the fact that so many suburbs are mostly white is no accident. It's the result of decades of racist federal policy that affect us to this day. Look!
Hooray, games!
What the heck kind of game is this?
It's Settlers of the Suburbs, redlining edition. Best by, use by, sell by. Contrary to popular belief, none of these dates actually tells you when food stops being safe to eat. In fact, food can still be good way past the date on the label. According to food safety experts, eggs can be eaten 3 to 5 weeks past the sell-by date.
Before I discovered BreadTube style videos, this shows my... In the series, Adam plays an annoying, arrogant know-it-all who ruins everyone's fun while educating. But me also being an adult and also someone who reads, understood this was all an act. It's a team of writers and researchers who all work to put this show on. Much like your favorite YouTube creator, everything is hammed up for you guys' entertainment. It's how the game is played. But, boy was I wrong. I won't make you all suffer with another sports metaphor. You ever watch a show and you really enjoy an actor and character and think, I wonder why that actor isn't in any big movies? Then you finally see them in another role and it just doesn't hit. That's what Adam Conover is like. He has a YouTube channel with over 600,000 subscribers where he does a weekly podcast where you think you would enjoy them if you enjoy this old show, you know? But they just don't have that je ne sais quoi. The topics are actually interesting, but they only average about 50,000 views, so I'm not being a hater. It's other people that just don't like the show either. Then his stand-up. I came across a set from his Just for Last performance. You would think I'm making it up if this clip didn't exist. It's a perfect example of an internet brain person finally leaving his echo chamber to talk to real people. I find so many white comedians funny, it feels disrespectful to include this as white humor, which I won't. He just really doesn't fit in any other chapters in this video. Now, I've never done stand-up comedy, but a general rule in all of comedy is you want the jokes to be relatable to the intended audience. It's called reading the room. It's why so many comedians become super rich and we can't really relate to their personal life or private jets. European vacation trips and garlic mashed potatoes. A $3 upcharge? Hell no, I'll take my free Caesar salad. That's a side, buddy. But what if I told you this motherfucker Adam Conover starts off with a joke about his entire family being geniuses and his sister being a nuclear physicist that studies molecules. I'm actually surprised they released the video. He bombed so hard. The homie FD Signifier said something in one of his videos a while ago that's made more sense than anything I've heard in any video essay. Video essays are the type of people you would talk about movies with, but not the type you want to go to a party with. Y'all, I don't live this shit. I can't imagine being a guy in real life like, hey, those Nikes you're wearing, yeah, they were made in a sweatshop. Oh, you replacing your tires for your Jeep? You know it's made with rubber from slave harvesting. Now imagine if Adam Conover, a walking stereotype for white liberals, was actually funny. Take away the, well, I'm smarter than you, and add a serious cocaine addiction, and you have John Mulaney. I'm not sure if it's a comedian out right now that perfectly balances white comedy and American humor. Now because I'm admittedly in a black echo chamber, he's a name I kinda heard in the past, but I had never seen any of his work. But I was watching David Letterman. He did an episode of My Next Guest Needs No Introduction. And well, it's David Letterman, one of the greatest interviewers of all time. So yes, I watched it. At which point I was like, I gotta watch this guy's special. From this one special, I can tell Mulaney is one of them. He balances white privilege without it coming off as an online liberal looking for sympathy. By talking about going to rehab for his serious, I don't want to ruin any of his jokes, but it was the rich white guy who can afford a type of culture, so he really wasn't hawking his furniture for money. But to be the most straight-laced looking white guy ever and work the room the way he did, some comics make me legit rethink the entire way that I make and write in my YouTube videos because they just so natural and vulnerable. I have to level up. But remember like 3 days ago, because let's be honest, most of y'all watching this video in chunks over a couple of days. So yeah, 3 days ago I was saying each group has different subcultures. So if John Mulaney comedy is big city New York guy, Joe Pera is small town, rural, nowhere America comedy. Because white guys run everything and have the power to okay TV pilots and shit, I understand that's why we have so many examples of various white comedy. Like, I'm sure some Arabic kids that grew up on South Park and The Office who would love to make a slice of life comedy about trying to be the first Arab NFL MVP or coach, but no one's gonna greenlight that comedy. It's too different. And that's the real beauty of white privilege. You're allowed to be anything. In 2024, if you're a minority, you still have to fit in some box to get on air.
Ooh, rotisserie chicken. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I was just picking up something quick for dinner.
It is kind of messed up though. A fully cooked chicken is $5.99, but a raw one is $9.85. I try not to think about why. Are you having a party?
What? Oh, no, I get an extra one for Mike.
Wow. Mike eats a whole chicken by himself?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he's on this new diet where he eats just one all-protein meal a day. Heard about it on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Fascinating.
Yeah. It's actually horrible, Joe. He acts like a brat all day because he hasn't eaten. He's always dropping tools around the garage because he's lightheaded. He forgets stuff. It's like he's menopausal. He gets home from work and he takes his chicken and he goes straight to the basement without talking to anyone. Then he strips naked, gets in the shower, and eats the chicken with both hands like a goddamn raccoon. Then when he's done, he turns on the water and washes the grease off his body, leaving the chicken skin and bones in the drain for me to clean up. It's unbelievable.
Well, at least he's losing weight.
He's put on weight.
But Joe Pera Talks to You is such a weirdly relaxing show and legitimately funniest thing I've seen in a long time. It can only exist on Adult Swim. Who else is going to greenlight the show about a slow-talking music teacher doing everyday tasks like grocery shopping and going for breakfast at a diner? But his calmness being the exact opposite of the realistically insane people in his neighborhood. It's like if Theo Von wrote actual jokes about his wacky neighbors instead of just riffing. Speaking of Theo Von, I also can't get into Joe Pera's stand-up be on his show. It's like for Mormons and super Christians, I don't know. The slow deadpan delivery, it really doesn't work for me when he doesn't have some other comic like John O'Malley to balance it out. But like the chapter is called, maybe it's just some white people.
Unfortunately, deep down, I've got the sense that I'm the type of guy whose wife dies young. Just look at these features. They're just waiting to be filled with grief.
And as we get ready for the final chapter of this look into what exactly is white humor, I hope I've done a good job of explaining. It's many things. Homoerotic, liberal comedy, bro, hipster, American culture, all of that, it greatly sways. Call me biased, but I consider American humor the best on the planet. It's the most influential. I mean, we created The Simpsons. That's why this chapter is just called God Tier. We talked about some of the GOATs in their prime. They carried entire networks. The Simpsons, Seinfeld, and South Park all had runs during the 1990s. And two of those are still airing and making funny satire. But I wanted to talk about a couple shows that more or less combine all of these elements for what I consider perfect. And that's perfect American television, not just white humor. Malcolm in the Middle, as far as I know, is the first and possibly only American sitcom to properly depict a lower middle class family.
This one? Let me explain something to you. I would sell Malcolm down the river in a heartbeat to save Reese.
What?
Malcolm's gonna be fine no matter what happens. Maybe he'll have to go to junior college or start off blue collar, but he'll work his way up to management eventually. Reese is the one who needs saving.
Even with shows like Bob's Burgers and The Simpsons, where they're supposed to be anywhere from struggling to middle class, all three kids have their own room combined with the parent. That's at minimum a 4-bedroom home. I grew up with middle class family with a dad who worked in the trades, and I didn't get my own room until I was 18. 3 bedrooms. That was the parents, the girls, and the boys' room. Now, Malcolm in the Middle is about a working class white family in the suburbs who we always feel is one bad week away from being on welfare and losing a house. They probably would be on government assistance if it wasn't for the mom being so proud. But it's more than just poor ass white people. It shows what that part of America lives like. Not poor enough to be in the trailer parks, but the mom works a low paying retail job and the dad is in a dead end white collar job. It's a perfect representation of post Ronald Reagan America, where wages are stagnant, but even a bad life for most white people includes a mortgage and 2 cars. I recently binged these entire series, and the early season holds up so well. Like, the wackiness is perfectly tempered. The public schools suck. They all feel like a family just trying to survive running the Reds Queens race. The thing is, American sitcoms are a uniform thing. It seems like 90% take place in some big city, like Friends taking place in New York City or some random suburban setting. Little is paid attention to those flyover parts of America, like, say, Pawnee, Indiana.
What are you, some kind of moron? Why don't you have hand dryers in the park bathrooms? They're so much more sanitary than paper towels. Anyone knows that.
My dog went to one of your parks and ate another dog's feces, and I'm going to sue you for that.
How do you like it? Huh? No. How do you like that? Parks and Rec. Rarely has a show ever come out at such an exactly perfect time. The series ran from 2009 to 2015, and that perfect time of Obama's presidency to right before Donald Trump got serious about running for president. America was truly a different place. We always had this divide between the left and the right, but it felt different from, at least from what I remember. It was seen as, let's make the government do the changes we want instead of storming buildings and crying everything is woke. We see this from the many, many town hall meetings in this show of a small Midwestern city. Democrats or Republicans were less important. It was small town issues like a local fast food chain being allowed to sell a cartoonishly large soda.
Leslie needs to butt out. The whole point of this country is if you want to eat garbage, balloon up to 600 pounds, and die of a heart attack at 43, you can. You are free to do so. To me, that's beautiful.
And budgeting for playgrounds and only person whose politics really was made a huge part of his personality was Ron Swanson. And he's a libertarian, meaning he hates the government and sees them as useless waste of time.
My daughter, she loves Chutes and Ladders.
Oh, come on. There is no strategy to Chutes and Ladders. It's just luck.
My daughter's 5.
Well, your daughter is an idiot. Her daughter is an idiot. Her daughter is an idiot.
The series showed a side of America that honestly doesn't exist anymore. People were willing to put petty grievances aside as long as it was best for the community. It's a small Midwestern town, so it's mostly white, but they don't ignore the fact that Donna and Tom are 2 of the only minorities. It adds to the overall show, the experience. If you're too young or not American and wonder what America was like before all of the nonsense is going on, this is pretty much it. That's before it was a really good chance an 80-year-old man with hundreds of combined lawsuits and felonies would serve his second term as president. Parks and Rec was the show. Ironically, watching some old episodes, you may not get that some scenes are even supposed to be satire jokes, because as we've reached a point in America where book bans for titles innocent as Arthur are happening. When a man making fun of a disabled veteran isn't even a speed bump on his campaign trail. As a Midwest kid from the city, I've come across these wide-eyed small town hicks that move to major cities for work, and Parks and Rec is really accurate. Where Parks and Rec uses the faux documentary style, the lampshade, small government in middle America, its older brother series, The Office, not only is it superior to its British predecessor, but it changed American television. People forget while laugh tracks were pretty much on their way out by the mid-2000s, American sitcoms still hadn't really changed much. The Office normalized the faux doc style, but more than that, it made you feel like a middle-class office worker that wanted to see your work friends every day. The Office is one of those shows, it's so popular, people have made never watching it and hating the series their entire personality. But like every show in this chapter, it's a perfect look at American humor. Instead of just rude or cringe humor, you're in on the joke of, did this guy really just make a blacks doing crack joke to the only black guy in the office? Similar to how Parks and Rec existed in that perfect time of Obama administration, The Office premiered before the housing crisis of 2008, where, yeah, this paper company in an increasingly digital world may close down. They'll be alright. And the show lasted through the very real era of millions of Americans losing jobs and homes because of the financial crisis, while rich CEOs, yes, got fired also, but David Wallace and his friends all got huge severance packages as the companies was sold, while working class folks got screwed. Even through all of this, characters getting divorced, affairs, weddings, babies, firings, it mastered what I call American optimism that may be hard to put in a series in 2024. Because student loans have gotten even more insane, housing is out of hand, politics is now closer to a gang or a cult culture. But the friends we made at Dunder Mifflin became comfort viewing for millions of Americans. Who doesn't dread the pointless work meeting that could have been an email? Who doesn't think their boss is an idiot that lucked into the job? While you're underpaid and maybe 1,000 sizing away from having to start your career over. It's the series some of us learned what the Indian holiday Diwali was, what the Sikh religion is, or the fact that bears do not eat beets.
Question: what kind of bear is best?
It's a ridiculous question.
False. Black bear.
Well, that's debatable. There are basically two schools of thought.
Fact. Bears eat beets.
Oh.
Bears. Beets. Battlestar Galactica.
Bears do not... What is going on? What are you doing?
It's one of the only shows that had as diverse of a cast, along with a gay character whose sexuality wasn't the entire joke. Oscar Nunez was the overqualified, smug, know-it-all accountant who just so happened to be gay and Mexican. The series didn't avoid it, but his personality was more important. Stanley was your divorced black uncle who hates most of his co-workers, but you know he really has a soft spot. The Office showed what work life was like pre-political culture wars, where you knew someone like Phyllis was definitely voting Republican, but you could still gossip on the clock with her. Speaking of normal Republicans in TV,
getting him just where I want him. Look, he ran a red. You can't do that.
It's a few signs of becoming an adult. You realize that ranch is actually an awful salad dressing. You start having to make your own doctor's visits. And that year you realize, wow, I slept on King of the Hill most of my life. This show is amazing. Following in the footsteps of The Simpsons of animated American satire.
You could lose 100 pounds and you still wouldn't be able to take a corner like me.
Well, I've got news for you. I could never lose 100 pounds. And you haven't been practicing. Your lawn is shaggy.
You say something about my lawn, Dotrieve?
Hi.
King of the Hill was closer to seasons 1 through 3 of The Simpsons that dealt with more realistic traditional storylines. Taking place in fictional Arlen, Texas, Hank Hill and his circle of more and more ridiculous family and friends showed a side of Southern America that wasn't just white trash stereotypes. even though those definitely exist in the show. But Hank is not a Republican because of racism. He's a straight white man who was born into the right generation to get everything the country promised him, and that's why he's Republican. And all of the best stories deal with Hank realizing something about the world that he was previously ignorant about, because growing up as a straight-laced child of a cold-hearted Vietnam veteran, Hank learns maybe the hippies he looks down on were actually onto something, and beef and vegetables taste better from free-range cows and organic fields.
Well, it cuts good. Consistent grain pattern. Well, here it goes.
So, is it good? The suspense is killing me.
It's the best steak I have ever eaten. Peggy, I think we need to say grace again.
The mega corporations are bad for the little guy. Blind trust in police and elected officials often isn't the right choice. Thanks to his son Bobby, who would have been a late Gen X kid when the show first premiered, it's forced him to challenge his views on masculinity. Yeah, it sounds weird, but dancing with your dog can be fun. It's okay for men to show emotions to things that aren't about football and beer. King of the Hill succeeds in every way modern shows and movies about conservatives fail, because the show wasn't afraid to show more times than not Hank's ignorance was wrong. His worldview changed, but he as a person stayed the same. He just grew as a man. Hank Hill wasn't a bigot. His neighbors weren't racist. Sure, he didn't know what a Laotian was, but honestly, how many of us did before the series?
So are you Chinese or Japanese?
I live in California last 20 years, but first come from Laos.
Huh?
Laos. We Laotian.
The ocean? What ocean?
We are Laotian. From Laos, stupid. It's a landlocked country in Southeast Asia. It's between Vietnam and Thailand, okay? Population 4.7 million.
So are you Chinese or Japanese?
The show wasn't afraid to poke at the biases of Christians adapting to a woman pastor or megachurches, or the overstepping liberals who think everything can be fixed with performative action. The humor only ages better with each year. So to answer the question, what's the deal with white humor? Well, like most things, it can be really good, bad, and cringe. But when done right, it allows all of us to punch up and laugh at those in power, as we enjoy these small pockets of fun. I've been Jawn Louis, and I hope you enjoyed this video.